This is my independent reading project that I did for the fourth 9 weeks. I did the book Dead to You by Lisa McMann. She was born in Holland, Michigan. She has a husband named Matt and two sons. She lives in Arizona, and a lot of her books are based on what she dreams. But in interviews, she doesn't like to discuss how she comes up with her ideas, so she tries to keep it a secret for suspense. In Belleville, Ethan was abducted. Um, and the setting would be in Belleville. Ethan lived in many states with his abductor named Eleanor. But the entire setting, basically, in the story takes place in Belleville and Belleville High School, where Ethan finally gets to go to school and experience high school. Um, he was 7 when he was abducted and just now came back. He has lived in shelters with Eleanor and in Eleanor's apartment. But like I said, throughout the book, the main place is, at his home that he currently lived in before he was abducted with his family. And the significance of it is that he doesn't really know if it's his home at all because he can't remember anything since he was abducted. The main characters are Cammy, Ethan's mom, Ethan's dad, uh, his brother Blake, his younger brother Blake, and his little sister Gracie, which was known as the backup child for when Ethan was abducted. They tried to replace, I guess, Ethan with Gracie to fill the void in their heart for missing him so much. Cammy, is Ethan's girlfriend at the end of the book. In the beginning, they're just friends, and she has lived down the street from them before he was abducted for a long time, and they used to play when they were little kids. But he's really in love with her. Throughout the book, you'll see before they start getting together how much in love he is with her. Ethan's mom and dad, they never really described a name, but their last name are Dewild. Um, so I guess you could call them Mr. and Mrs. Dewild. Um, from the beginning, his mom thought that was her son, and at first she thought, she doubted him because her eyes, he says at the beginning of the book that his eyes met hers and how weary they were. And his dad, was kind of the strong, silent type. He never really said much, but as soon as they found him, they all hugged and they went home. Blake is, like I said, Ethan's younger brother. He feels very threatened by Ethan because for such a long time, Blake never understood what was happening because he was so little. And there's a lot of tension between him and Ethan throughout the entire book. And Gracie throughout the book, she's in kindergarten. And like I said, was the replacement child for Ethan. That was really Ethan's only real friend, sibling-wise, in the household. So, yeah. And then there's, of course, Ethan, which is the main character. He was a boy that got abducted from his front yard. The basics, like I said, he was abducted from his front yard. At 16, he finally returns to his family. As you read on, tension builds between him and his family, and they all start to fall apart. He starts to doubt if he's Ethan or not. He can't remember anything, so he tries and tries, but it never happened. And he figures out that there's something in his mind that he's trying to remember, but it won't come out. Some literary devices are foreshadowing. This was from Blake. he says, I think you should get a DNA test. It lets the reader know that Blake really doesn't trust Ethan as his brother, and it lets well, Blake's going to do all in his power, everything that he can to prove that Ethan is not his brother. So it lets you know that there's going to be a lot of conflict between them moving on in the story. Some conflict is, with the blood washed off, Blake's face doesn't look nearly as bad. Ethan and Blake got into a fight. This isn't their first physical fight, so it's really bad for Ethan because they're trying to say that he's violent. And then there's suspense. Ethan was abducted from a black car with 2 men inside it, and as it says here, I look out the window of the black car from a few minutes ago in the driveway. It makes the reader think, well, are those the people that kidnapped Ethan in the beginning? And it just leads the reader on. And then there's hubris, which is excessive pride. Blake shows this all throughout the book. He's telling, I guess because he felt dominant before Ethan arrived, he's constantly threatening Ethan. My last literary device is flashback. Ethan found this picture of him, Cammy, and Blake at a snow cone machine, and Blake uses this to try and prove that this is not Ethan. The author's tone. The author clearly wants the reader to feel suspense while reading it. It's very heart-wrenching, and you really just grasp onto every word. In my opinion, she feels that these stories, she doesn't want them to go unnoticed. So really, she's just trying to get kids' stories that are struggling, that have happened. They're trying to get them out there. The theme is that you can never be too sure of yourself, that you need to take time before you try to jump into things, and you need to figure out who you really are, and that takes time, and to be your own person and not try to fit in so much and try to get brainwashed into thinking you're something you're not. Personally, the love story between Cammy and Ethan, it really breaks your heart because right at the end of the book they finally get together, and then something dramatic happens, and Cammy's never going to see Ethan again. Every teenager falls in love and every teenager gets hurt, so I think that a lot of kids reading this book would connect to this. And then there's my works cited page. And this is by Mackenzie Lee. Thank you.